Hello out there, dividend growth stock enthusiast. It's Colby, the DGI Crab, and today I have the honor of doing one of my absolute favorite types of videos to do, which is responding to a viewer's question that I got via email. I love doing content like this. I want to be able to help people directly and hopefully provide some opinions that will be of use and provide some perspective for my viewers. And also I encourage anyone else out there to leave any comments down below if you have any additional advice or opinions, or if you think I might have missed the mark on something. Let's really discuss this and provide this viewer with a lot of feedback on what I think is an excellent question, which is regarding focusing on growth or income in a tax-sheltered IRA. So if you're new to the channel, you'll know that I focus primarily on the age and the timeline of the investor, which I believe is the most important metric that an investor should consider, especially a dividend growth stock investor. Now, I tend to look at 401ks, IRAs, whether it be 401k or Roth, a little bit differently than I do just your regular taxable non-retirement brokerage account. For me, in my taxable non-retirement account, that's my standard brokerage accounts, I want to build up enough of a passive income stream that hopefully I can retire prior to hitting that retirement age where I can start withdrawing on 401ks and IRAs tax-free, or well, not tax-free, but penalty-free, which is going to be 59 and a half unless something changes between now and then. But when it comes to these retirement accounts, I do tend to look at those a little bit differently. Now, this isn't direct financial advice, viewer. I'm just going to provide you with my opinions or what I would do if I woke up in your shoes. You could take it or leave it at that. I'm not a licensed professional. So here's the viewer's question. He says, I have a situation that I'd like your advice on. I'm 32 with an income on the lower side. On Webull, I have two accounts, a taxable normal account and an IRA. The IRA is a rollover from an old job, and I plan to not touch it until there's no penalty, 60, 59 and a half, just to clarify, and just let it grow sheltered from taxes. So I'm thinking of it as a lump sum that won't get new funds or withdrawals. I have a 401k I invest in at my job, and that is more of my focus. Well, that's good. I'm glad you're still saving for retirement, and it's not just this one IRA from your old job. So we're off to a good start there. And at 32, you're investing and thinking long term. Also great. Off to a great start here. So basically, I'm looking at it like this. The IRA isn't taxed for many years and isn't getting new money except for what it generates. So I chose holdings like REITs, JEPI, and SPYI since I wanted more money to invest and not worried about taxes. Is this a bad use of the money? It isn't a life or death decision or amount of money. I have more in my 401k and taxable account, but I am wondering if holding income assets is a mistake and I should hold growers. This IRA won't be all I live off of, but I am hoping to turn it into a useful amount of money. Wondering if this method or just buying and holding a growth play like Microsoft or similar would be best. In my taxable, I hold DGRO, VIG, and VOO, as well as individuals like Nike and Target. So, hey, you know I love those 5 choices in the taxable account, and I think that those 5 in particular are excellent examples of what someone in their early 30s ought to have in their account. Things that do have some dividend yield, but not really high starting yield, but stuff that should grow consistently in the high single digits or even low double digits in some years over the long haul. So I love that focus. I think on your taxable, you're definitely on the right track with that group of holdings. I think you should keep focusing on exactly that kind of stuff, particularly the ETFs. But hopefully if you watch my content, you'll be able to find bargains on the individual stocks as well. Nike and Target certainly looking like those as of the recording of this video anyway. Now let's go to the meat of the question here, growth versus income. So at 32, in a retirement account, whether it's your 401k you're contributing to now or this side IRA that you're not contributing to anymore, I'm of the opinion that you should focus on growth. The reason for that is this isn't going to be these are not going to be funds that are generating income that can get you to retirement early in the form of dividends. They're stuff that's there for your retirement years specifically, so 59 and a half and older. And because you're 32 years old, you have 27 years for the money in that account to grow. So if we hop over here to Seeking Alpha and we look at one of the examples that you've got right now, SPYI. SPYI, I've really become a big fan of this ETF for those that are seeking income. It yields very high. Right now it's yielding 11.5%. And over the past year, the share price is up 10%. So when you take the share price growth, combining that with a very high starting yield that pays out monthly, it looks like we've got quite a winner here. Big fan of this one for people that need the income right now. However, if we were to compare this with something that's more growth oriented, like SCHG, for example, SCHG is not going to generate income at a very rapid clip. You can see here the yield right now is just 0.39%. So certainly not a big time income play. But you'll look at the share price growth and it is up over the last year. It's up 42%. So if we were just to compare 10% growth plus 11% yield, we're getting it with SPYI over the last year 22, 23% return, somewhere in that range. Whereas with SCHG, even though we're not getting that yield, we're getting well above a 40% return on that money. And SCHG, since its inception, has been averaging comfortably 16% or better year over year. Over the last 5 years, it's up 152%, which is just amazing. So while SCHG is not necessarily a great investment, even for a younger person whose goal is to eventually be able to have a dividend income that they can retire off of, for a retirement account that you're not going to touch one way or the other until you're in your late 50s, early 60s, I think this growth play, tax sheltered or otherwise, is what's going to generate you more money over the course of that 27, 28 years that you've got until you start withdrawing from that account. Now, that being said, I don't know, you didn't tell me exactly how much money that you have in there, but let's just say that, I don't know, let's say that you've got like $10,000 in there right now, just as a kind of a round number to start with. Well, if we're getting, I don't know how SPYI is going to do on share price over the long haul. It just hasn't been around long enough for me to really give a comfortable example on that. But if you're getting, let's just say that 11% yield and 5 to 8% share price growth over the long haul, then you're probably going to be seeing that increase fairly well over time. But with SCHG, if you're getting the share price growth just overall that's beating both yield and growth of SPYI, combined, then even if it's just a difference of 2 or 3% a year on average total return, factoring in everything, dividends reinvested and growth, just that 2 or 3% a year extra makes a massive difference. I'm going to refer you to the rule of 72. If you're not familiar with it, is where you take the number 72, the average annual rate of return, and you divide that into 72, and then the number that you get out of that is the number of years that it takes for your investment to double. So for example, if you get an average rate of return of 9% a year, then 72 divided by 9, it takes 8 years for that investment to double. Well, look at something like SCHG, and you've got on average a 16% share price return year over year. So 16 into 72 is, let's see, it's 4.5. So every 4.5 years with something that grows that rapidly, it doubles. So at age 32, if you've got, and again, I'm just throwing out a round number here, $10,000 in there right now, then at 36.5, it should be worth 20 if it's in SCHG. And then at 40, it'll be worth 40. At 44.5, 80. At 49, 160,000. At 53.5, 320,000. And at 58, $640,000. And you haven't, and at 58, you haven't even hit retirement yet. Now, let's say that SCHG, over the course of the next 25 years or so, doesn't do 16% on average. Maybe it's a little bit worse. Maybe it's more like 13 or 14. I would still think that with $10,000 now, I believe you're comfortably going to have about $500,000 in value without adding anything else to it by the time you hit 59.5. And then at that point in time, if that's going to be a major source, all things being equal, of your of what you're going to live off of, you could turn around at 59.5 at that point with $600,000 worth of SCHD, sell out of it, and purchase a bunch of SPYI and JEPI and REITs and start yielding 8, 9, 10% collectively with all of those things. And now you've got, you know, 40, 50, maybe even $60,000 a year in dividend income coming in at that point in time. And hopefully you wouldn't have to sell any of those underlying positions at that point, and you're really going to be ahead. So you can take into consideration a massive growth play like SCHG, even as a dividend growth stock investor in your brokerage account as well. Same thing could be true there, where once it's been in there for long enough and it's doubled enough times and it's really worth a nice pile of money, and you could start selling some of that off, swapping it out for some things that yield a little bit higher the older that you go. I'm just, for the non-retirement account, I really don't necessarily want to be in a position where I feel like I have to sell anything or start switching some things around. I might end up doing that with my own account. Certainly, I might sell off some things in my 50s, like Microsoft or Visa, and start transferring some of that over into some higher yielding stuff to really juice that income at that point in time. But again, it's not something that I want to do because I have to do it. It might just be something that I do because I want to tinker around a little bit or take advantage of some good deals on some high income plays at any given time. I don't want to have to do it out of necessity necessarily. So that's my opinion on it. The retirement accounts, I'm pretty focused on growth related materials myself. My 401k largely has growth related mutual funds in it. And my Roth IRA has a ton of SCHG and some VIG. I have a small amount of REITs in there as well. It's not 100% SCHG like I just said, but the REITs that I do have in there are the only REITs I own, because I don't own any of them in my brokerage because of tax reasons. And the only time that I've ever purchased the REITs in there has been when they've been really far down on share price. Like I have a sub $50 cost average on realty income, for example. So that kind of becomes a growth play if you're buying something when you think that it's way down. But for the most part, especially in your early 30s, load up on something like SCHG. Don't focus on the income right now, because even that 11% that 11% yield reinvesting, that's certainly going to grow your account as well. But I don't think it's going to grow it quite as much as an absolute monster like SCHG, which is absolutely loaded up with growth plays like Apple and Microsoft and Nvidia and all of that stuff that dividend investors don't typically place a lot of emphasis on, but it's a wonderful place to get exposure to those kind of things if you need that share price appreciation for the long haul in the retirement accounts. So that's the video, viewer. I hope you enjoyed it. And everyone else, leave some comments down below. Let this viewer know what you think as well. And if I left anything out, definitely let me know and that viewer know as well. Email me questions, dgicrab@yahoo.com, and I'll see you on the next one.